Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Again, I got to tell you, Michelle, this is so cool. This is so much fun because we talked in the opening about we are looking for the best people all around the world. And last hour, where were we last hour? We were in the Caribbean.
We were doing that. Yeah, we were in the Caribbean. We were doing that. We travel a lot, if you think about it.
Boy, are my arms tired. No.
My mouth and my cheeks hurt sometimes.
that is so much fun because sometimes I'll catch her going, oh man.
Yeah, for anybody who watches, sometimes you'll see me making some funny faces, trying to relax my face.
Exactly. Well, right now we're going to go to Australia. And to talk to the lady that we get to talk to today, she is really dynamic. By the way, I need to say this. If you're listening to this right now or in the future, what you need to do is you need to take this episode that you're about to hear and send it to everybody and anybody that you can, because it's going to be really a really good show. And so with that, would you like to introduce? I love the way you introduce people.
Well, the one and only most talented Leigh White is here today joining us. Hi, Leigh, and how are you?
I'm really well, thanks. And it's so great to be connecting with you live. And I'm from Sydney, all the way from Sydney.
From Sydney, Australia, the land of the 9 deadliest snakes in the world, and spiders that will eat your cat. And so you can stay there. That's fine, but I ain't going.
Yeah.
That's okay. I'll go.
We have to watch our back. Yeah.
You know what she'll do? She'll adopt one of those, spiders that are like as big as a dinner plate, and she'll put it in her house, and then I won't go there either.
Yes. My babies are getting so close to hatching, so I'm going to have to relocate them before they can get out.
Wow.
But I'm not keeping them. I'll let them go.
I'm wondering, what sort of babies are they?
They are cat-faced spiders. I actually brought the mama from Colorado. I had her, she got sprayed by poison, survived that, stayed with me there for a month, and then I brought her home. She survived another month, and then I didn't know that they pass away when they give birth, but I have this jar with this really thick nest that looks like cotton, and all these little baby holes that are starting to really grow now, so you can see the little black in them, and it's cool. I like it. Wow. I don't care. So.
Oh, that would be lovely to see them come to life.
Yeah. Well, it was a gift. Mama gave me the gift of her babies, and I will do what I can to then make sure that as many of them survive and go get to have their own little lives. So.
She has 100 spiders in her bedroom.
No, well, maybe you can't see. I don't know how big they get, but when they touch my bed, like last night, they get removed. But I will never kill them. And if they die, then I keep them in a little box. I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird, but I really should go to Australia. I have a big bug box.
Yeah. I mean, it's great to be fascinated with nature, and it's so great to be so kind of spiritual about, respecting other life, even if it makes a lot of people's hair on the back of their necks stand up thinking about spiders.
Hey, even me sometimes. I didn't let her sleep with me or nearly hold her, but she, for whatever spiritual reason, was brought to me, and I'm going to carry that on. So thank you for understanding that. That's why we love having you here.
And Leigh, as we get going, you need to tell us your story. how did you become the woman that you are today?
Wow. Well, that is a long story, and I'll definitely shorten the version for you to I can definitely say, talking about nature like we just were, nature is something that has been a really big part of my life. I lived by the ocean in a town called Manly. It's an area called Manly in Sydney when I was really young. And then we moved, this is my dream come true, is we moved on to like a mini farm so I could have, well, we didn't do it so I could. My parents got a business there, but I had horses. And I was just missing in action, out horse riding all day, every day, and competing and doing all of these things. So I had a really a childhood and teens where I could spend a lot of time alone with animals and things like that, or with other people that were similar. And I still do that today. In April, we'll be going for the birthday ride with the group that I go with. And I think those things where you find what is really grounding for you and what really shifts your mood and your energy and how you feel is really important as an adult. So for all of us, it's so great to still do those things that connect us in that way. But as I was growing up, I entered the world of marketing, and I worked in book publishing, which was amazing. And I was so fortunate to work for the publisher that distributed all of the Hay House books, your Deepak Chopra, Carolyn Miss, Louise Hay, obviously, and all of the big names. And so in my 20s, I got quite immersed in that world, and things that are not what you're taught at school, and different perspectives, and that was so great. But then I throughout my career, I went into quite the polar opposite, which was video gaming publishing. And so I just love anything that's publishing, very creative. And during the time I was there, I spent a lot of time in the US actually, and when I had a family, I started my own business. For some reason, I sort of thought that would be easier than trying to work for someone else. And I had a PR consulting firm, and it started out as just me. And I just had to go with what the market kind of needed. I hadn't done that kind of thing specifically very much. That like wasn't my first choice, but that's what everybody needed. And I went right into the non-profit sector and government advocacy. So like it's very stark contrast to what I had been working in entertainment. And so this was about changing people's lives. We'd worked with foster care agencies. We worked with carers, as in unpaid carers, and Relationships Australia, which is a big organisation, and the Salvation Army, all of those. And that was all going along fine. And I had 2 children. And the big that was one of the turning points when I kind of went out on my own, because I'm making it sound really easy. I just left my job. Well, I didn't. They wouldn't let me stay, is what the thing was. I couldn't do any flexible work. So that's why I went out on my own. And then as I was going along, in 2006, I had an experience that changed my life forever, in a way that was even bigger than having kids, really. And I can remember the day that everything changed, which was a very rainy day, and I go out to my car, get in the car, living my life as a busy consultant with 2 young kids. I think the nanny must have been with the kids. And I get in the car, I'm thinking, got to get to the other part of Sydney, go through all the traffic. I'm going to get a coffee. It's really rainy. And I pull up outside the cafe near my house and stop the car. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to go out in the rain. I look up and I can see my brother, his car is parked in front of me. And it's really emotional talking about it, because I haven't thought about this in so long. And so I get out and I get my coffee and I get into his car and I have a chat with him and ask him how he's doing. And so my brother had some ups and downs and a few struggles in a few areas. And I just kind of took this as another normal day, normal conversation. I said, I've got to go. I'm in a hurry. I've got to get to work. And off I went. And that was the last time I saw him alive. It was probably a week later, or maybe that weekend. I don't know how many days later, but my brother went missing. And what we later learned was his girlfriend, who'd been a cancer patient for a long time, she'd gone to another state, to like physical state in Melbourne, to for her last sort of days, and she'd passed away. And then my brother went missing. So my brother's name is Vernon, and he went missing. And so we later found out that he had taken his own life. And I'm just going to say, if anyone out there is listening to this and you need to talk to somebody, please do talk to us right now, or do reach out to Lifeline or resources where people are waiting to talk to you, because you're all really important.
And I just want to add to that, if you're in the United States, I think it's still operational. Who knows? But 988 is a crisis number that you can call. If you are, first of all, I want to tell everybody that's listening to this, you're important. You're important to your family. You're important to the family of all of us, the human family, and you'll get through it. But sometimes you need help to get through it. And so please reach out. 988 is the number to call, and or talk to a counselor, somebody that that knows you, or you can meet and stuff like that. Because I've witnessed several suicides in my life, and they never realize, or maybe they do, some of them, but many of them don't realize what kind of an impact it's going to have on the people who love them.
That's right. And it just stopped my whole world overnight. Like I can't even describe. It's such a blur. And so I've got a baby that's nearly 1 and a 2.5-year-old, and my husband and family. And so we were just in complete distress, and trying to understand that, I think, is a really big thing that comes up for people when they lose someone. And you think, my brother was an extremely handsome, physically fit, popular, had a job, all of the things, right? And so you never understand why. And all I'm going to say is it's kind of okay that we don't know why. But for us, he did leave us some letters. And yeah, they were just letters of goodbye. That's not like I'm doing this because, it was just letters of goodbye to each of us. And so, to avoid me crying, I'll sort of focus on what I did next. And really soon after that, I thought, well, this is just beep, 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 beep. Really, this is terrible.
If you have some soap that you can wash your mouth out with soap now, that would. Yeah.
And I thought, I have to do something about this. And this was my way of coping, is I felt like this cannot happen in our world. I've got to start a foundation. I've got to do something. So I phoned my accountant, and he gave me some advice, which was probably good advice. He said, look, it's too hard. Just don't bother. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to listen to that, because really I think my head is about to explode right now anyway. And I just emailed all of my clients, and I said, this is what's happened. I just told them what's happened. But inside, I felt like a complete freak. I didn't know anyone that had lost someone even suddenly, let alone this way, where a person's taken their own life. And so I phoned a colleague and I got them to service my clients, which was great because they were another PR consultant. And I had a few weeks where we were able to sort of say goodbye, and I needed help. I knew I needed help. And so I started reaching out to some crisis resources and counsellors and things like that. And it was okay, but like I wasn't getting any big breakthroughs, I suppose. And in that human way, I was expecting that I've got to find the fastest way to get through this. And I wanted to meet someone that had come out the other side of this type of grief and survived, because you start to think, well, I miss my brother so much. And then you think, well, is this an option? And it's a fleeting thought. It's not like a consciously, carefully considered sort of ideation. And it's just this part of the whole blur of the situation. And I want to say that that's very normal, and that siblings bereaved by suicide can have a particularly difficult journey because you share so much with the other person. You've got so much in common. And for me, a lot of what I felt was, it must be so much worse for my parents. So you don't even have real permission to grieve. And you certainly don't have permission to have a good time or smile or anything like that because of the way that you're feeling and what's happened. And so it is a very dark place. And I knew I wanted to start this foundation, and the story gets happier from here on. I came across a woman. Yep.
Leigh, let's go ahead and hold that thought. I need to take a quick break. And when we come back, I want to focus on what that was a horrible experience, to be sure, in your life, but the impact that you've had on many, many people and humanity has changed a lot of different lives. And I want to focus on that as well, because it all is part of the entire package. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely. That's exactly where we're going next.
Oh, goody. I knew we'd go someplace good. So Brachelle and I will be right back with Leigh White. Stay with us. At 67 years young, I never thought I'd feel this good again. But thanks to Purium's Ultimate Transformation Lifestyle, to date, I've lost 37 pounds and gained energy, confidence, and a whole new outlook on life. This isn't a diet. Purium is a complete lifestyle change, giving me all the natural, organic, nutrition-packed superfoods that fuel my body, crush my cravings, and help me burn fat naturally without starving myself. No gimmicks, no guesswork, just a simple, proven system that works. Superfood shakes, detox support, and real results. If I can do this at 67, imagine what you can do. It's your time to feel better, look better, and live better with Purium. Let's do it now, and let's do it together. Go to www.positivetalkradio.net and click on the Transform You to get started. That's positivetalkradio.net. Transform You. And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, and Brachelle is here. And Leigh White is here. She is the founder of Soultopia, which is a group, and she's done a lot with it over the years. And first of all, I want to thank you. I'm sorry for your loss, first of all.
Thank you.
Losing a sibling is never easy. I've lost one. I still have one. Maybe. So, but it's hard. And but at the same time, it focused you in a whole different way and really helped you do what you're doing today. Am I correct in that?
Yes. And I've got to say, I'd had that idea, I want to start a foundation. And, I could have tried that, and I would have been pushing something very big uphill, and it would have been a nightmare. And what happened was, I was looking for specialist counselling or something helpful. I just wanted to meet someone that could help me find my way out. And I came across a bereaved by suicide specialist counselling service that was a group. And I thought, wow, I don't know about a group, but we'll see. And the lady, Dr. Diana Sands, said that I needed to come and meet her first. So I went to meet her. I thought, this is good. Okay, I'm going to talk to someone that knows this stuff. And in the meeting or the therapy session, I said to her, I want to know why. And of course, she didn't know the answer to that. And then I said, I want to know when things are going to get better. And she was so smart the way that she answered that, because she said, I can't say how long, but there will come a time where you'll notice that a little bit of light is starting to creep back in. So she was very gentle about that, and she was 100% right. And so the next thing was I met the group, and this is where the whole divine timing thing and divine manifestation of things came in, because I knew what I wanted and I couldn't do it by myself. And so we had 12 people in the group, and my oldest brother, I had invited him to come to the information session and just support me in that way. And he ended up joining as well, which was great. And so we had multiple sessions. It must have been 12 sessions over months and months and months. And we'd all joined feeling like, I can't even get out of bed. But by the end of the work together, we had so much energy. We were like, we've got to do something. And one of them kept talking about a movie called Pay It Forward, and they wanted to pay it forward and let other people get access to this work. So we created a registered harm prevention charity specifically for people bereaved by suicide. And that is, it still exists today. It's in Australia, and it's called Wings of Hope. And the Wings stands for We Inspire New Growth After Suicide Loss. And there's a lot of information and gatherings and things like that there. So that went on we were actively involved for about 10 years. So there's a lot happened in that time. And we actually published a book. Don't know if you can see it, Red Chocolate Elephants, which is a book. And it's this version contains a DVD. That's how old it is. And this contains art and words from families bereaved by suicide. Our project was to place that in schools all over the country and just give all the school counsellors and the police and everybody that's involved in this type of loss the resource that they needed. So that was so empowering and so incredible. And I had also started going down quite a different healing journey, where I went down the road of receiving energy healing, and that's where Soultopia first came about, because I had wanted to start being a energy medicine practitioner and helping other people. And what is so interesting to me to this day is I've never really treated a lot of people that have experienced suicide loss. Like, that's not part of the story around me. It's everyday people with normal lives. It doesn't have to be something as extreme as that. And yeah, so I had that practice for about 8 years actively, and really going down that spiritual and philosophical healing journey.
Which is really cool. Rochelle, do you have a question?
What was one of the things during that journey that you look back on now that made you maybe like angry or anxious or put you in denial, that you now look and you're like, I'm so thankful for that, and maybe something that you do now understand of it?
Of my loss?
Hmm.
Yeah, I know I can answer that one. Definitely. I was a person that would rush through life. I would do too much, and always try to, be in control of things and planning things and on top of things and the best of this and that sort of thing. And this type of loss definitely stopped me. It stopped me in every way, and it was so incredibly confronting that, if you can imagine, through that rushing, we avoid a lot of emotions and awareness of ourselves, and we don't grow. And we grow externally because we achieve things, but we don't grow in our self-knowledge. And so by me being ground to a halt suddenly, and then really having to take a different perspective on, what does this all mean? What are we even here for? What if it can end that quickly? well, like it's just where, the mind goes off in all sorts of directions of what does it all mean. And so I discovered mindfulness, and I probably didn't learn to meditate for a few years after. I don't think I would have been open to that, because that really heightened state of anxiety and what my nervous system was like, it's not good. And really depressed as well, because like kind of one of the lights of my life had gone out. And yeah, so I definitely know that when I look back, this sounds really weird, I've never said this, I'm a better person for it, for that type of loss. You develop a different perspective, a really great appreciation of the fact that we never know what another person's going through. And you develop a lot more. Like, I was already compassionate. I was always very close with my brother, but it's different. Yeah. So I think that me knowing the power of stillness and really being in the moment has changed my life.
Now I got to ask you, because you at one time were a publicist for Hay House
Yes,
in Australia. First, I
sort of.
got
I was in the marketing team. Yeah. Minor difference. Yeah.
well, and you were
Yeah.
associated with it, and so
Yeah.
you knew. Did you get to
Yeah.
meet Helen at all?
Oh, no. So I since have met the publisher. Now I'm not going to remember his name. The current publisher, Tracy Dean.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Well, they can Google him if they want to. But now you're in Australia and you've been there. There was a gal who was a musician. Her name is Michelle Blood. Does that name ring a bell with you?
Not loudly.
Oh, quietly maybe. And in any event, so I'm curious. You were around Hay House
Yeah,
with Deepak Chopra and Dwayne Dyer and all of those writings and things. Did that rub off on you before?
absolutely.
And so that led you down to understand that there was a better way for you
Yeah, yeah.
to get through this horrible thing that happened to you, right?
Yeah. It's fascinating because one of the books that really stands out to me is, like, I don't know why I feel like I'd already got the sense of what Louise Hay teaches in You Can Change Your Life. But I got quite into Deepak Chopra's books, and definitely read a bit of Wayne Dyer, and The Celestine Prophecy was the one for me. That was the one that is by James Redfield, and he had self-published that book until it became very popular, and now it's hugely, I don't know how many million copies they've sold. So the Celestine Prophecy explains a lot about energy and life force energy. And so when my brother had, and also I started having some Reiki therapy when I was that age, like 26. So I started understanding this thing, that energy is a thing. And I was told by the Reiki healer that I was very good at, like, drawing that energy and using that energy. So when I eventually became an energy healer, it was very natural for me, all of that body work related stuff. And it helped me in the suicide grief, because I was very aware. I don't know, I'm trying to think of why I would have thought this way, but I was very aware that he wasn't gone because of my beliefs. And I did go to a medium. Someone that we know had suggested that we go to a medium, and my oldest brother and I went, and she was incredibly accurate in describing my brother, his girlfriend, what they looked like, what had happened, the whole thing. And it was incredibly comforting for me to have this, because you don't go into a medium and say, I'm here to get a message from my brother who's just
Oh,
died.
sure, yeah.
You
Well,
don't tell them anything. And the minute I walked into the room, she was like, whoa. And she was very confused because my brother's just been in there before me. So the same entity is showing up, and she's thinking, what is going on? And didn't realize that we were related. And yeah, so that was incredibly meaningful, because my beliefs allowed me to have that experience of knowing that, yeah, just that all really helped me. So like me at 15, maybe being open-minded, and me at 25 and then sort of 30 when the death happened, there a lot of expansion of awareness. And I guess for a lot of humans, we need proof of these things, and feeling like it was very real for me.
Well, and like we talked in our pre-interview, I've done a lot of interviews. I've worked with a lot of psychic mediums. And the one thing that I'll never understand is that, and I've got story after story after story that I can relate about what they came up with was true, that they had no way of knowing, and so forth. And but there are some people in this world that regardless of what they hear, my sister had a reading by, do you know who John Edward is?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He read her. Now, John Edward is one of the best psychic mediums on the planet, as far as I'm concerned. He did Crossing Over and a bunch of other things. He read her he was in New York, and she was in Seattle, and it was on the radio show that I was doing. And you can go to positivetalkradio.net and you can find John Edward and that show there. And he was spot on. He could tell us what my grandfather died of, the other grandfather. That's 3 out of the 4. And of all of what they died of, the month of May was very important, and that's when her birthday is, her grandchildren's birthdays are. She said there's a letter R that's very important to you, and she said, well, I have a brother named Randy. She forgot that her husband's name was Roger. And so she was totally blown away by the experience, until I talked to her 2 weeks later. Well, I don't know how he knew some of those things, but I don't think that he could have knowledge, or that they are aware of us and they're on the other side. And so she ended up poo-pooing the entire thing because of her personal beliefs that she was unwilling to alter, to consider something else. And she's going to listen to this show because she just had surgery, damn it. I probably should have said that story, but what the hell? And anyway, we need to take our halfway break, and then we'll be right back more with Leigh White and Brichelle and me, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald and Brichelle. One of these days, I'm going to figure out how to do a Australian accent. I can't do one very well, but
you're better at Irish.
Yeah,
I know.
You're on the right track, sort of.
That's what it ends up being, a bit of the Irish, and that's but I wanted to talk to you about this because I think it is so important. Brichelle is a budding medium. She sometimes tries to ignore it, but it's coming through little bit by little bit, ain't it?
Yeah, honestly, it's building, and I can admit it's totally true that at a certain point, I did shut it down after a bad experience in a reading in a family friend's house. because I think that's when I realized how powerful and real this was. It wasn't just something that I thought that made me weird or like, is this even real? Because I would question myself since I was teeny tiny, could barely walk. I remember thinking, like, is this real? And now I'm to the point to where I know how to protect my energy,
Mm.
because that's one thing I've learned that is huge. When you
Yep.
open up to everything, you're really opening up to
Yep.
everything. So setting those energetic boundaries, um, and also just giving myself the space to be open, because it doesn't really have to even do with connecting on to the other side or to something else, but it helps me connect inside to me. And I love that people are available and doing this work for others, because it's a clarity and can be something that kind of is like allows you to close the door. And I do think for a lot of people, if they can't believe in it, it's because they realize if that person's still there, it's just too much to handle. So
Mm.
they're like, okay, well, I'm just going to shut that down because that sounds a little too much for me. And
Mm.
so
Mm.
um, I've done really good at just trying to understand it and get through it. And I love that you were open to that idea, and I'm glad that it had some clarity for you in that moment, because they're really always there. They're always there, and I loved how many times, especially at the beginning of the conversation, you and Kevin both was talking about knowledge. Um, I mean, it's there. You just have to access it. And when things happen out of our control or our power, big or small, we get to choose kind of the path of that based off of, am I willing to learn my way through this, or am I just going to butt heads with it all my life? And that was standing out to me because I'm pretty sure in the work that you do and with people you work with, you see that the more they learn, they can be open with themselves and new ideas of things. Is that right?
Mm. Absolutely. And I love the way that you were talking about energetic boundaries. And I think that for anybody who is experiencing any sort of hard time, or really on every day of our lives, learning about energetic boundaries and understanding that that is an important skill to have that protects you and strengthens you is really, really important. That's one of the first things I would definitely recommend to people, because it opens you up to how much choice you have in what you take on in so many ways in life. And then, as you were saying about being open-minded when the rug has been pulled out from under you, is very difficult for people. And I feel like I was so fortunate that I'd been given a few peeks behind the curtain before everything happened to me. And I don't know why. I just keep thinking about how we were raised and was that it? But I don't think that had a lot to do with it. We're probably raised in a very open-minded way. And so there weren't religious barriers to being open-minded. And I think that when people are open to knowledge, to be curious, I think would be the best way to describe it from my perspective, because maybe don't take on everything, but to be curious and try some things and see what's going to actually bring you closer to feeling that compassion or love rather than fear, which would be the I'm powerless, I'm never going to get through this. And like for you as a medium, that whole thing of feeling like we can't protect our energy and those sort of things are all around the fear side, aren't they? Definitely. Mm.
Yeah, that fear, man. We fight a lot.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, it's so important in when I'm coaching people, like as you mentioned, like them to be discovering different things along their way. I think it's so important when we are around a person who's grieving or going through a big life transition, or if you're a coach and you're coaching somebody, to really focus on just the questions. Like, we're not going to be telling them how to live or the way out or anything like that, but allowing them to have those epiphanies where they can tap into that wisdom that's inside of them, or maybe something a little bit intuitive that, you know, is a combination of what's out there and what they already know. It's great to be asking really open-ended questions for them to help them.
For sure.
Mm.
And whatever you ask, you shall receive, says the
Yes.
universe. And
Yes,
when
absolutely.
you test that, it gets scary.
Yeah.
So
It's
be
so
careful what you ask for.
Yeah, it's so important to be so aware of what we focus our energy on. And I, like in terms of my journey, I had gone and created the Wings of Hope organization, and then had my coaching community, and that was all so much fun and blah blah blah. And what would happen is people would want to do something very similar to me, where they go through an experience, or they know that they're not fulfilled in their lives and they want to create something. And so that's what led me back into wanting to help people with the PR side of things and getting their story and their voice out there, because everybody's stories are so powerful. And I mean, that is what Positive Talk Radio is all about. And
Yes.
that thing, of helping other people.
It is our passion. It is our driving force. And at this point in time, I'm powerless to stop it. I just have to
Yeah.
continue to do it every day. And great things happen. Great people show up. It
Wow.
is a remarkable, remarkable life that I get to have. And it wasn't always that way. But I made the decision, the conscious decision, to say yes to
Mm,
whatever it was. And I didn't
mm.
even know. I didn't even know until one of the guys that I was doing this with said, "We need to do a TV show." Well, that TV show turned into a radio show, which turned into another radio show, which turned into the podcast, which has turned into 1,000 episodes, and Rochelle being here and you being here and all of that. And it's all because I said yes.
Wow. That is so powerful.
I
Mhm.
got the messages, I got the reasons why, and I said yes. And
And sorry,
no, go ahead.
can you describe what that was like for you when you were getting the messages? Because I know my experience, where I got that message about I've got to start a foundation, and then another one about I've got to write a book about this. And so I'd love to hear what your experience was, so that the listeners can know more.
Different styles.
And for me, it was all about music. Are you
Mm.
familiar with the song by Leanne Womack?
Hmm.
Which Sing it for me.
Rochelle, I can't
I
sing.
hope you dance. That one.
Yes, it's called "I
No,
Hope You
I don't think
Dance,"
so.
and the premise of the song
So good.
is
Mm.
do not stop yourself from doing what you really want to do.
Wow.
Go help yourself dance. And that song was popular at the time. It would play every time I was thinking about something, it would play on the radio. And it was the message, clear as day to me, was you need to follow and your heart and to do what you believe is possible. And it may not always work out very well, because I had what I like to call my bad country music song period, which is about 4.5 years of not very good stuff. And by the way,
Mm.
during that time, that I also included my brother-in-law committed taking his own life.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
so,
Mm. I'm so
but
sorry.
but the thing is that, oh, he's fine, and so
Mm.
and
Mm.
so and my brother's passed away, and my mother's passed away. My mother being
Mm.
a fundamentalist, you'll appreciate this. My mother being a fundamentalist Christian, when she got to heaven, when she got home, she looked around, I'm sure of it, and said, "Why are all these people here?" And because she thought that it would be a real quiet place where there'd be just a little chapel, and she would sit there and worship God for eternity and stuff. And she
I,
made
I've
that.
heard it. I've heard
Yeah,
it's really busy up there.
Yeah.
it is. It's
It
it's a
is.
busy place. And
Hmm.
but so for me, and then things just started happening
Mm.
at the same time that I was doing the show 2 days a week in KLAY in Tacoma, and my boss found out I was doing a show, and he said, "You're going to have to give it up." I was a district sales manager, and he said, "We can't
Mm.
have a district sales manager doing that." A week and a half later, that company was bought by another company. And they came in and they gave a lot of people pink notices and said, "You're out of here." And I was one of the ones who got a white notice and said, "You're still with us." And but at the same time, KKNW was flipping their format to a talk radio format so that I could go do that. And so I was able to leave that job and get unemployment and then go do KKNW. And that led to a series over the next 20 years of all of these cool things that have happened because I said, "Why am I here? What is it all about?" And said yes to the answers that I got. And that was real simple.
So powerful. And I can remember when I did a Denise Lynn program, which is called the Soul Coaching Program. So I was a student in that, and we had a vision quest at the end where you sort of do your vision board and all of that sort of thing. And what I got was, I am here to teach people to live an inspired life. And I'm like, well, how do you do that? And so moving away from being someone in PR and on the phone and sort of like you're cutting deals and things like that, to someone that's teaching people through coaching and then teaching people through the PR has been incredible. And I feel like, I'm 54 in April. This is like the next best part of my life, like all the beginning of my life was this learning curve, and this is the best part that's up ahead. And that is so empowering, because I think when you know something about what your purpose is or what you really love, then you're just going to have a great time or every day.
I said this a lot on the show, and it bears repeating here, is that I believe that you and Brachelle and me had a meeting before we actually even got here and talked to our guides and talked to our folks. And we said, this is what I want to accomplish in this next life. And so they gave us the ideas and the contract for us to fulfill in this life. And this is what we are doing here. This is and everything, every experience, both good and bad, that has happened to all of us happens for a reason. And it is to grow and to experience the things. You becoming a PR person is a perfect segue to being a transformational coach and a energy healer. You didn't know it at the time, but it's a perfect transition.
It's so fascinating when you can look back and you've got that hindsight.
Yeah, well, there are even people that I can tell you for a fact, but I'm not going to tell you until after we take this break. So you'll have to stay with us, and we'll be right back. We're talking with Leigh White, and Brachelle's here, and I'm getting on a roll. So we'll be right back.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Leigh White is here. Go to her website, which can you get through the website and tell us all about it?
Me, as in the URL, or about the website?
Well, a little bit of both.
Yeah. So to visit the website, it's www.leighwhite.com.au, because when you're in Australia, you have a .au. And so Leigh is as spelt the same on my video here. And so on the website, you can find different resources to help you get started to share your story, because a lot of people feel like their story isn't worthy 100%. They feel like nobody's interested. But I know Kevin would attest to this, that as a breakfast radio producer or an afternoon radio producer, they need hours of content every single day. And that your story, everybody's story, is really important in its impact and how it can change others' lives. So don't hold back. You can download free resources off the website and learn a bit more about, the possibilities for you down that avenue of sharing your story. And what else is on there? Yeah, that's the main thing. Is I just want to give you free resources to get started. And there are things for people who are hesitant to get started. And then there are things for people that are ready to get into action, like a free PR plan checklist as well. So there's a lot on there.
And that website again, real quick, is
it's www.leighwhite.com.au, and it's LEIGH, white like the colour white.com.au.
See, Leigh, when you get to, and Rochelle is so young, she hasn't got this part, but when you get to be my age, you can look back through the mists of time and you can see how certain things lined up and worked within your life. I'll give you an example. My dad was an executive with Nordstrom. He worked 60 hours a week every week. He was absentee most of the time. He wasn't there, wasn't interested when he was home. It was peanuts, beer, and TV. And so it wasn't like he was really interested. I had a little league coach. His name was Scotty Reed. He picked me off of the wire when I was 8 years old, and I was on his team. He made sure that I was on his team every year until I aged out at 12. He became the role model of my life. And 3 years later, he was a window washer. He fell out of the window, fifth floor window, and passed away. So I didn't get a chance to see him again. When I was 22, I had a great friend, and he said, let's go do auto body. And so we went there, we got in line, and he said, screw it, I don't want to do auto body. And so he left, and so I was there. So I ended up getting into drama and doing drama and the radio station. That's where I met my wife, and then we had a couple of kids and all of that. And then I had the friend who came to me, and I haven't talked to him in 40 years. And then my next friend, another friend, that we were doing this stuff, he's the one who said, we should do a TV show. I haven't seen him in 20 years.
Wow.
They came into my life specifically for those reasons, and then they were going to go do their own stuff. But does that make sense to anybody else?
Absolutely. And, I think about it often, that thing of, people are there for a reason or a season, and that old saying. And it's interesting when you're a person who's quite sensitive, because you really notice when the people fade out again and, your interests go separate ways, and you think, oh, it's a bit sad. But then when you've got a purposeful based reasoning that you can place around that, and know that they're fine doing their own thing and you're fine doing your own thing, and that's all there is to it. Like, there's no rhyme or reason to it.
Well, and the universe picks certain activities. I'll give you an example. That the guy that I went to the Green River Community College with, I just remembered this. We were going to go leave the DoubleTree where we were in that restaurant. We were going to go to a seafood restaurant that was wildly popular at the time. And right when we were going to leave, I got an abscessed tooth. And so I had to go to the dentist. But the place we were going did not have any dental coverage. I had coverage where I was. So I had to stay where I was because I needed a bunch of work done on my mouth. And so he left. I never saw him again.
Wow.
So that was all in my addled brain today. That was all by divine intervention.
And I think that is such an important thing that people often don't have in their awareness around where the divine might be leading you on your path or offering you a path. And so again, that thing of mindfulness for me, where I can be still and stop the noise and the unhelpful thoughts, because I still am a person that's very glass half full and happy, but will have a lot of unhelpful thoughts. And I think that when people know that those thoughts aren't real, usually, and that when we're still, we can have such a higher, more elevated experience of our life and more guided, where you feel that nudge to go and do that thing. Like you have given so many examples, Kevin, of where different doors have opened, and like for you, Brachelle, to be so brave to do something that you feel like, wow, what am I entering into here? This feels like it's natural for me, but what is going on? All of it is so guided.
Yeah,
Well,
and I had to add on top of that too that there's a part of it that's growth. It doesn't, when you're growing and things are changing, it doesn't always feel comfortable. It's not
Mhm.
easy and it's not supposed to. That's okay. When you're following who your purpose is to be and who you are, and you really get in touch with yourself, it's not all happy go lucky, butterflies, everything's
No.
easy, rainbow road. If anything, it gets harder. And that's okay, because in that hard is where you learn what you need to. So when the reward comes, you understand it and you're thankful for it. And then you can then take what you've learned and use that in whatever your path was to continue helping people. And I love that you have made your story, your purpose, and your passion and your way to finding how to help other people, because you knew what it was like to be the person who
Mhm.
needed somebody.
Absolutely. And I love how you brought up the growth part, because we can feel so lost when we're going on a more of a growth and expansive path, just for those chapters where something's changing, we're up leveling in some way, or something you think this must be the wrong path, because we're, I guess, building those muscles in some way.
Yep.
and I just have to say that it's just not fair that Rochelle is so young. It's just not fair.
Hey, in my defense, I'm a little scared because if there's really so much time, what is going to happen? And
Hmm.
um, really just embracing myself now and giving myself the grace to prep for anything. And I've already been through so much that I face the universe now and I say, what's next? I'm
Yeah.
ready, I'm open, I'm available, and I know that I have what I need to get through it. And if I don't, I will find it, I will figure it out. Because we all need each other,
Yeah.
and we're all pushing away from each other. I'm like, what is going on? This is all backwards.
Yes, it's so true. It's really challenging in that way. But like, as you know, everything you were saying there, I totally agree, 100%. And it's so great to have that attitude of, I'm going to work it out. Like, I can definitely say to everyone that's listening, and to you in particular, that you'll get through whatever you have to get through, whatever comes up.
And if you follow my advice, which is the gospel
Let
according
it
to Paul
be.
McCartney,
I beat you.
she did, just let it be. Let it
Mm,
be and watch it unfold. It is
mm,
the most magical thing in the world when I can just let it be and watch it unfold, because it
yeah.
unfolds in the most beautiful way. And thank you for being here, Leigh. You are
Yeah.
amazing. We've just got a couple of moments left. Tell us anything you'd like us to know.
Well, I think what the current chapter for me is at the moment is completely about letting go. And it's so in line with your let it be. And that letting go of when we take this inspired action, and then letting go of the outcome, and just focusing on the parts that we enjoy, and sort of letting the divine work through us in that way, where we can just keep, being our best version of ourselves, but creating something here on earth that is going to benefit everybody else, is where the power really is, for sure. That's like the opportunity for us. So we've got to keep doing what we're doing, not worry too much about the results, focus on the process, and just try to be in this moment and stop thinking about tomorrow and the next chapter, definitely.
Well, and the future is going to be what the future is. We can just let it be. That's
Mm.
I don't
Mm.
I don't want to get into what if this happens and that happens, and because it doesn't serve us.
Yeah.
Just
Can't
just let
control
it
it.
be and watch it grow.
Yeah. And for us to just be that, example of a life well lived. So a life that, is happy as best as we can and making the most of each moment. It's so important to live by example like that.
It is indeed. It really is. Because there's going to come a time when I'm not going to be here anymore, and somebody's going to say, there is no friggin' way he was that positive all the time.
Yes, he is.
I want to thank you both for being here. This has been the most fun I've had all day.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be with you both again, Kevin and Rochelle.
You're going to need to come back. You know that, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we were only just getting started in this conversation.
Yes.
There is so much more to talk about. But we'll have to wait till next time. But thank you both for being here. Have a great day, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. That's Kevin